because I have already figured out I have no idea what y'all are talking about. I was listening and I'm like, wow, they're using acronyms I've never heard before. They're saying things and then they use the word nuclear more than once and nano, and I was like, wow, this is going to be my hardest audience yet. So I am just delighted to be able to make this moon landing and talk to people that are in a different field than I ever get the opportunity to do. But I'm delighted to be here. I really am. I just need to make my own first little thank yous, and so I'm going to do that very quickly. Sue Byrne is with the Sunset Rotary Club, and she and Martha Hobson, and they also both, Martha Hobson and Sue, run around with the Flatwater Tales Storytelling Festival that happens on June 7th and 8th this year, 2024. It's June 7th and 8th, and some of y'all took out your phones, but most of y'all just didn't even put that down. June 7th and 8th, 2024, right here in Oak Grove, right here in Oak Ridge at the Oak Grove Theater. And they've been running around taking me all over this town the last 4 days. This is day number 4. So if I forget my words, if I look like I'm tired, I am. And it's early, and this coffee was good, but not yet strong enough for me to be sure and get all the way through it. And I also want to thank my executive assistant, Tama Lunsford, who's here. She has been driving me around all week here and making sure that I get out and pulling me out when I needed to be pulled out. We definitely need people there. And I appreciate Ray has been following me around. I have had poor people following me around. Ray's been taking pictures of me. I look good. And John has been making sure that I show, he just shows up and his presence is always a comfort, and I appreciate that. And glad to see Rose and Trina again, so that's wonderful. But I wanted to make sure I said thank you to them in a public way. So I am a storyteller, but the story I'm going to tell you, the story I want you to hear a little bit of, has a point at the end that is the most important part. So when I want you to listen. I know it's easy to kind of fade away into the background. I'm hoping I won't let you do that. But I really want you to know that there is a connection to why I am here at East Tennessee, at ETEC, East Tennessee Economic Council. All right, y'all with me? Yeah. Now, y'all lucky I'm not doing what I do with 5th graders and making y'all say all kinds of wonderful things about yourself and wake you up, because some of y'all look like you were early in the morning too this morning. So I'm just making sure you're there. All right. Once upon a time, and isn't that a great way to start a story? Once upon a time, there was a king of a great, great nation. But this king began to think, I want to have the ability, when needed, to have greater power, to be able to create things that if I want greater power, I have the ability to use it. And so the king gathered up some of his leaders and said, can we do this? And they said, oh yeah. And he said, well, I don't want anybody to know that we're creating these things that will give us greater power. Can we create a secret city? Yeah. They thought to themselves, this would be good. And so they began, those leaders, to strategize, to mobilize, and they began to put together a secret city. As they were building the secret city, they needed more help. They needed those who would do the menial jobs, and they began to think they wanted more people to help, but they didn't want to bring people like themselves. They decided they would pick those people that they felt were inferior to themselves. And so they brought them in. And they came in, those that they thought were less than them, and they helped to build. And when they built, they were like, at the end of the day, well, we don't want to see you. We don't want you to be a part of us. We want this to be our city. So we will build a different place for you. A different place for you. A secret city where we don't see you. And so it was that the king was pleased that he had created a secret city. And so it was that the leaders were pleased that they too had created their secret city. But sometimes secrets are not meant to be kept. Sometimes secrets are meant to be shown the light of day. And so it is. When I first came here to Oak Ridge, and they had asked me to do this project about the Scarboro 85, I knew nothing. But it's not that I didn't know anything about Scarboro 85, I didn't. But I didn't know anything about Oak Ridge. It was such a secret, I had never heard about it. And you know, when you come up on the road to Oak Ridge and you see a billboard that says, what you say here, what you do here, what you see here, what you hear here, what you say here must stay here, that's a weird way to enter a town. I'm just telling you. I was like, I thought that was Vegas, but now I'm learning it's Oak Ridge, and that got, you know, that Vegas that got it second. So I was really, that was a good one, didn't you? So it really was very strange for me. I didn't know, I just had no idea. So I was taken over to one of the first things is Charles Crow, who's one of the vice chair, who works with the Flatwater Tales and Rotary as well, and Ray Smith, the historian here, took me over to the Oak Ridge Museum, which you should go to if you have not been. It's a wonderful place. And the first thing that Ray did, and he's heard this story now every single time, so he laughs, and he hasn't told me not to say it, so I get to say it. So he showed me this panoramic view that goes from one side of the room to the other. Oh, and it's a picture, an aerial picture of Oak Ridge from, I don't know what the year is.
45.
1945. So looking down, and it's from one side to the other. It's gorgeous. And he's very proud of it, I must say, because it was the first thing he showed me. And I was like, great. And he said, and Sheila, both Charles and Ray said, and Gamble Valley, where African Americans were placed at, the Gamble Valley is right over here. And I said, over here? He said, yeah, off the picture, not in the picture. And I said, oh, behind those trees? And he said, yes. I said, that was planned. That was intentional. And both Ray and Charles had a moment there, just thinking about that. I said, and where is Scarboro community, the Scarboro community that I'm thinking of? And they were like, well, it's over, you mean on this side? Outside of the picture? Away. And I recognized that there had been created a place where they grouped people, the African American community, away from the lifeblood of Oak Ridge itself. It did not mean that they didn't work in Oak Ridge, they certainly did. And then yesterday someone pointed out it wasn't just that they were separated by trees, they were separated by valleys. It was a ridge valley that each of the sections, Y12 had a valley. I'm going to be quoting things I don't know. Y12 has its own valley. Something else has its own valley. And then there's another one that has its own valley. And Scarboro is its own valley. Sits away from the town itself. So much so that in the 1940s, 1950s, that this time period, that you could be a white person living in the town of Oak Ridge and live your entire life here in Oak Ridge and never have to interact with an African American person. Never. Never have to see or interact. And I've had people say, oh no, but then they go, well, yeah, that was a way it was. This was a segregated town. And the segregated town meant there were places that blacks and whites could not by law gather together. But things were changing. 1954, please tell me somebody knows what happened in 1954. Very good. Who said that? Very good. Excellent. You're the education guy. Of course you did. He did well. He did you proud. So, Brown versus Board of Education. So, by 1954, we have Brown versus Board of Education. It's the desegregation of the schools. That must happen quickly, with the greatest of speed. With all deliberate speed. And And so it begins to go, what is going to happen and change here? Well, first let me give two words, and that is the word integration and desegregation. I want to make sure that we understand how those are two different words and why I'm going to say one and not the other. Integration is where I take a group of folk, and I can't divide here. This is not a really good space, so I'll just do this section over here. So this section over here, you all, and then everybody else, okay? So we would take some people from this section here and put them over here. And we take some people from this section here and put them over there. And that would be integration. We'd both be sharing in the move and the change. Desegregation is this section here, we're taking all your tables out, we're cutting off the building, you gotta go over here. And you have no choice. Picking you up, and we're moving you over here. Which means it's gonna be a little more cramped over here, right? I mean, a little more, the resources have to spread out differently. But the biggest thing is, you no longer have this. That was desegregation. Desegregation, meaning that what was already here was taken away. Scarboro community had its own school. It was a school that had a school that was there. At first, it just had first through 8th grade, and then it added in 1950 its own high school. A big deal. Because now high school students, African American students, would not have to get up and be at the bus terminal at 7 o'clock in the morning to take the bus over to Knoxville to go to the Austin Colored High School. That's what they had to do. But now it was right down the street. They could go down those streets in Scarboro, those streets that are named after every street there is named after a college, including Carver Street, which I used to say was after George Washington Carver, and I got my hand slapped yesterday, and there is a Carver College, which is a historically black college and university. And every street is named after a historical black college. So as you're walking to school, those names are there. Education is important. And that L-shaped school, that long L was 1st to 8th grade. The heel, that was the administration building. And that short little L part, that was the high school, 9th to 12th. But 1954 had come. I'm not certain how far I'm allowed to walk. All right, go ahead and do what I want to do. All right. So, 1954 had come. And in 1955, January 12, 1955, the Oak Ridger wrote and printed in the paper that they had decided, because they were a federally funded town, the Atomic Energy Commission, a federally funded town, well, that meant they had to abide by that law. Like every military post had to abide by it, so did this area. And so in the paper it was reported, no longer will there be a Scarboro High School. As a matter of fact, no longer will there be 6th graders and above at Scarboro School. They will now go to Oak Ridge High School. It was not a choice. You had to move. Well, there was one choice, was to get back on the bus and go back to Austin Colored School in Knoxville. But the choice was a hard one because it required finances and time. He had a good school already. But now that school would be gone. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. like some good singing, or at least morning singing. I don't know about all that good. It was the morning of September 6th, 1955. He had gotten up early, the boy had. He was 14 years old, and today he would go to 9th grade, but things were different. He walked out of his house, and along the way he met his best friend. But today there was no joking and laughing, no running to Miss Margaret's store to get a little bit of candy and say, make sure the bus slows down so as it comes around I can get on it. And there was none of that. Today they commiserated, because today that boy would go to 9th grade at Oak Ridge High School, and his best friend would go to 8th grade at Robertsville Junior High School. They gathered with the other students, and as they did, he patted his pocket to make sure that his money was there. You see, his family made enough working that he was required to pay on the city bus that was the school bus used. That was different. He used to just get to walk to school. He talked to the other students that were there and noted that the older ones, they were thinking about the visit from the white students that had been in the journalist class last year who had come over to Scarboro. And the youngest, 11, they were scared. They were 11 and they were leaving 5th grade. They were now going to 6th grade, and what they had always thought is that all they would do is walk to the next classroom up. But now they were at a bus stop, some with coins in their pockets, riding the city bus for the first time without their parents. They got on the bus, it was quiet. They proceeded down Wilberforce, eventually out to Tuskegee, and towards the school they went. And that boy thought about all that he had been reminded of throughout his life. Things that his Mississippi grandparents who had moved here had taught him. That those that had come here, because you see, they brought all African American workers here from Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, and Tennessee. Places where segregation was natural. Places where knowing your place was known. And his parents had taught him all his life how he was supposed to be. Keep your eyes down. Don't look white people in the face. Stand to the side. You don't want to bump anybody. Make sure you keep be mannerly now. Be mannerly. And do better. Do better than anybody else. Twice as good. So that folk will note you. And be safe. Be safe. He thought about those things he'd heard all his life, and how would he put them into practice here? When they pulled up to the school, there were some white students that were there waiting to help the students get to their classes. And it was meant to be welcoming, and it was meant to feel safe, but he did not feel safe. He didn't feel safe because this boy, 14 years old, this boy was entering into a school that he knew where most people didn't want him to be. And this boy of 14 years old was entering this school 10 days after the body of Emmett Till, an African-American young man of 14 years old whose body floated up in Money, Mississippi. For something he had done, for some offense that no one could quite get what that offense was. They had taken him from his uncle's house. They had beat him until his face was unrecognizable. One of his eyes was out completely. Had he not worn his father's ring that his mother had given him, his mother would not have been able to identify him. 10 days before this Oak Ridge boy, a 14-year-old African-American Oak Ridge, Tennessee boy, was to go into the building. He was walking into a place where he hoped he did not offend. So he did not feel safe. He followed the students that took him to his classroom. He noted the number on the door, walked in, greeted his teacher properly. The teacher pointed where he would sit in the back. And he wondered if that would be what his life was like every day. And for that particular boy, it was like that every day for 4 years. Being careful around the corners, literally walking outside the building if he thought there might be trouble to get to the next class. Not being involved, not living the high school life he would have lived had he been at Scarboro. Some other students, they got involved. Honor Society and Student Council and basketball. They played let me say that correctly. They practiced basketball. They practiced all right. 3 of 3 African-American boys began to play basketball at this school or practice. But often, most of the time, would receive the phone call, "You can't go with us on the bus today to play basketball." As a matter of fact, the New York Times wrote about it, going out of the screen, coming into the screen. As a matter of fact, the New York Times, when 2 of them played the first time, it was written up. Segregation ban ends. Oak Ridge School uses 2 Negroes in basketball game. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, December 3rd, and I'm assuming this is 1955. Yes, 2 Negroes went in as substitutes for Oak Ridge High School's basketball team tonight. The move marked the first break in segregation in a Tennessee school or college sporting event. A crowd of 500 persons watched the game as Powell Valley finally edged Oak Ridge 54-53. Coach Ben Martin started an all-white team. However, he sent in Fred Gwynn, Negro center, midway through the first half. Gwynn scored a foul shot 30 seconds later to clip a point off Powell Valley's 7-5 lead. Once, a few scattered boos were heard when the second Negro player, Lawrence Graham, had a foul called against him. New York Times big news. And the first time, and I believe the only time, that they were on the court. Others didn't want to feel unwelcome and unsafe, and so within a couple of months, they began to leave and find a better place. I have only 2 minutes, and I'm not halfway through. That's good and bad. So I will end this, wrap it up. But what I want you to know is that this is a story that had been forgotten. That the Scarboro 85, and one of them spoke to me and said, it was like we had died. Our memory was lost. And why is their memory important to be kept? Truthfully, because we could not sit here, black and white in this room, had not somebody taken the first steps of making integration, desegregation possible. Everywhere you look around East Tennessee, if you find yourself amongst a diverse group of people, it is because there were the first that did that in the middle of hard times. And they were the first to make that happen. And so, yes, we are trying to get that word out. You see, there was no violence here, so everybody felt comfortable. But just because there is not violence does not mean there is not great harm. And there was harm in forgetting. There was harm and what they walked through. But we want to honor that they opened the doors. And this is where we reach out to you as partners. One, so that you can help us with the Scarboro 85 monument and financially donate to be able to do this. And if there's other ways you can help, please make this happen in the lifetime of the few that are left alive today, to honor them. And let's be real for a second. This might go over a minute and I might get in trouble. So I'm going to walk away from the timekeeper. Let's be honest. You want people to come here to East Tennessee, right? Yeah. You want more people to come to this area. Well, we need to have something to bring people here. Yes, we have the secret city, and that brings a good chunk of people here interested. Why not open another door? This was the first place that desegregated in this country. And although there was not violence, there was harm, and we can begin to be the place that talks about how harm can happen even without violence, but also how we opened the door right here in Oak Ridge. And not only that, I'm going to be done. I'm kidding. And not only that, we're hoping to make this monument, we're hoping to put it over in Bissell Park, right where the Peace Bell is. And wouldn't it be awesome if Oak Ridge was known for peace and reconciliation? Would it not be a good thing? Who could you bring to this area to make that possible? Who would come here? There would be people. And honestly, yes, you'll be part of the U.S. Civil Rights Trail. But what you don't have in Tennessee, which we have in Virginia, is an African American heritage trail that sees all kinds of things along the way. And you could create that trail, and why not it start here? Why not here? You go, well, is there enough business? There's a whole slew of Black and African American tourism businesses that skip this state. And you don't get them. Their green does not come here. And yet you can make that happen. Why doesn't somebody create the app, create the Heritage Trail, make that happen? Why not it start here? Why not make this the place where people come to have conferences about peace and reconciliation? Why not us honor in such a great way those that opened the door for us to be together today so that I can be fussed at because I went too long? Please consider that boy that took himself and put himself in a position to open the door. Consider the 11-year-old. Consider the ones that graduated and even the ones that left. Consider how we have changed this community. And I'll shut up. Thank you so much.